Good afternoon and welcome to Workforce Wednesday webinars, a professional development series that helps diverse job seekers develop new skill sets that will enhance their careers and influence their personal and professional lives. And now our host, James McFarland.
Good afternoon. My name is James McFarland, and I'd like to welcome you to the Urban League of Lexington's Workforce Wednesday. Workforce Wednesday is brought to you by our sponsors, Toyota Tucson and Truist Bank, and we'd like to thank them for bringing this program to you. Before we get started with today's program, I'd like to ask you all out there who's viewing our program to visit the Urban League of Lexington's social media pages so you can see what we have going on here at the League. Now, today's guests are from the Bluegrass Community and Technical Colleges. We have Dr. Erin Tipton. She's the Associate Vice President for Workforce Solutions. And we also have Faith Calhoun Loudon, who's the Director of Career Services. How are you doing, ladies?
Doing well, thank you.
So you're going to talk to us today about skills for workplace success?
Yes.
All right, well, I'm gonna turn it over to you all. You might see me pop in from time to time with a question or two, but I'm gonna turn the program over to you all.
Thank you, James. All right, I'm gonna get my screen together to share our PowerPoint, so just give me a second. Everything look good on your end?
It does. Thank you, Faith. All right. Well, thank you. Faith and I are thrilled to be part of this Workforce Wednesday session today with you all. So thank you, James, for the invitation. And we both are going to present to you on different items that might be of interest to you as they relate to BCTC, but also to things that you might be considering for your own pathway as it relates to jobs and entering the workforce or moving further up the ladder in the workforce. So again, we're from Bluegrass Community and Technical College, and I work directly in our workforce solutions area. And what we do is we work directly with business and industry to provide customized training. And so, as you can imagine, we both Faith and I interface with industry on a daily basis. And so we're hearing firsthand from them what they're looking for. So just to kind of give you an overview. So again, we oftentimes business and industry will come to us and say, I need to upskill a particular group of employees in my organization. And so we're able to put together customized training plans for them. And some of those training plans can be things that have to do with they need a set of people to be upskilled, but they may also be looking for entry to mid-level people to help with their workforce needs. So we'll talk about some of those opportunities in just a minute. But we also offer continuing education. So we have many people who we work with who have either graduated from BCTC or are working in a professional setting out in industry who need to keep up their licensure. And so in order to do that, they need to access continuing education opportunities, a couple of hours each year to make sure they're staying current in their profession. Another area that both Faith and I work with is work-based learning and apprenticeship. And so as you think about pathways into the workforce, one of the opportunities that we see, and we're seeing an increase from employers, is their desire to want to work with individuals who want to work and go to school at the same time. And that's very exciting because we're seeing employers wanting to invest more in their workforce. They understand that they have to invest in their employees to keep them relevant and current, and then also just to, in general, develop their employees. We also work with workforce assessment. So if an employer comes to us and they're wanting to really get at a particular skill set that a population may need to be successful in their organization, we can work with them on that. I had mentioned earlier pre-employment training and companies who are willing to hire people in that maybe don't have experience or education. We're seeing some of this in the healthcare sector as we work with individual companies who can't find enough qualified people. So they are willing to work through training and sometimes are paying people while they're in training. So some of the training that we do can be anything from what I was mentioning earlier, technical training that a company needs to upskill their employees. But we're also seeing an increase in companies who need to invest their next set of supervisors and managers. So we provide an array of options for employers to be able to upskill. And just as an aside, we are able to help companies offset the cost of training through our trains funding.
Let me ask you a quick question about
yes.
the training. When is that training offered at the Bluegrass at the technical colleges, or is it offered at the actual workplace?
It's a great question. And so it's a combination of both. Most of the training that we do, if it's technical training, happens on our campuses just because we have the labs that are, most up to date and equipped to offer that training. But we do provide training on site at the employer if that is what the employer wishes.
Okay.
One of the things too that I will just kind of pause here and mention, and probably thinking about these slides should have mentioned this earlier, but just to get a sense of who we are. I know many of you may already know about BCTC, but I always like to make sure people understand that we are the largest provider of workforce training in Central Kentucky. And so we have 7 campus locations. So we have 3 campuses in Lexington, and then we have 4 regional campus locations in Winchester, Georgetown, Danville, and Lawrenceburg. And so in terms of access to our campuses are in a 20 to 30-minute drive of most people in Central Kentucky.
Does some of those campuses offer specialized trainings where you have to attend the one at, say, Somerset, so you can get special training that may not be offered at the Lexington campuses?
So yeah, yes and no. So our Lexington campuses have, first of all, we have over 40 technical programs. And what we do, so at those 7 campus locations, I'll just kind of go through those and talk about some of the signature programs that are at each of those campuses that may help with just kind of that general understanding of what students can accomplish. So at all 7 campus locations, students can access what we call transfer the first 2 years of a 4-year degree. So we have transfer agreements with virtually every public entity and higher ed institutions, whether it be colleges, a college or universities in Kentucky. So we have that at all 7 campus locations. We also have the online offerings that we have that we provide where students can actually take online classes that would lead to an Associate of Arts or an Associate of Science, which leads to a 4-year degree. So we have that. Lexington, we have, as I mentioned, we have 3 campus locations. The Newtown campus, which is our newest campus, has the transfer piece that we talked about, the first 2 years of a 4-year degree, but also has some other programs like film studies, business and management and marketing. There's also a biotech program at our that Newtown campus, as well as a heavy offering of STEM, science, technology, and math. And then at our Leestown campus location, that campus has a wealth of programs in allied health, so nursing, surgical technology, respiratory, pharmacy technology, radiology, and then also nurse aides, so some shorter term trainings as well. And then we also at the Leestown campus have what we refer to as our skilled trades area. So that's going to be our certificate and 2-year technology programs in electrical, heating and ventilation, so HVAC, and then carpentry and automotive and welding. So that's kind of an overview of the campus locations. We still have a presence at the Cooper campus location, but we're moving everything over to the Newtown campus. So at Georgetown, that is known as our Advanced Manufacturing Center. And so that campus has advanced manufacturing technology as well as industrial maintenance technology and integrated engineering technology, as well as the transfer piece. Moving on to Winchester. Winchester has some allied health programs. So they have just started a nursing program that is underway. So students can complete the 2-year degree to become an RN. And they also have medical assisting, and again, the transfer piece that I talked about earlier. And then at our Lawrenceburg campus, that is another allied health campus, which has the full nursing program. So a 2-year degree to become an RN. They also offer phlebotomy, and then they're starting a new diesel technology program this fall. And then last but not least, our Danville campus has a combination of advanced manufacturing and healthcare. So they have a practical nursing program, and then also industrial maintenance, advanced manufacturing technology, and then an EMT program. And starting in the fall, we'll have an integrated engineering technology program. So they also have phlebotomy in Danville. So I know that's a lot, but it's just kind of an overview of how varied our campuses are. All have similar things with the transfer piece, but each campus has some distinct programming at each. So we can go, Faith, to the next slide. So I had mentioned before the workforce training and how we meet the needs of business and industry. And so some of the things that we hear from them, and Faith will touch upon this in her piece, is we are hearing from employers that technical training and having a technical skill set is very important. But also is equally as important is what we call essential skills. So individuals who can work in a team environment, have some level of computer skills, individuals who are on time, dependable, punctual, who have those essential skills. And so if students can demonstrate that, we're seeing that employers are willing to invest in them in work-based learning opportunities like apprenticeship, where you can go to school and have a job at the same time. So not having to pick one over the other. This next is just a sampling. This is not an exhaustive list of who all we serve, but this just shows the depth of the different companies that we work with in our region. Many of these are located in Lexington, but also you can see that some of them are located in some of our regional communities that we serve. We have a large partnership with what we call the Lexington Healthcare Collaborative, and that is made up of the University of Kentucky Healthcare, Central Baptist Lexington, and then also CHI St. Joseph. Another piece of what we do in workforce development is companies will come to us with needs that where we don't necessarily have an existing academic program. And so we are able to be kind of an incubator for new college programs. So we have been able to, again, respond to the needs of business and industry, but because it's an ongoing need and there's other companies who also could benefit from that new academic program, we then can start a new program at the college. We work directly with our academic programs. So for example, employers who are contacting us who want access to our students and our graduates, we work hand in hand with them because we know that in Faith's role as the Director of Career Services, she works, again, every day with large numbers of business and industry But we also know that we have faculty who are working in our technical academic programs who work with our students every day. And how do we get those students connected to the jobs that are out in the workforce? Another trend that we're seeing, as you think about obtaining skills related to either technical or thinking about transfer programs that would lead to a four-year degree, is that our students are often hired sometimes in a full-time capacity even before they graduate, because employers are seeing the benefits of students who are going through our courses and our programs and offering them jobs and working with their schedules until they graduate. So it's very, that's an exciting thing for us to see. Let's see, we'll go to the next slide. A couple of other areas, and I touched upon the licensure for skilled trades that we offer, but we also offer a lot of what I would call community or continuing education programming. And that's where someone who maybe isn't necessarily interested in obtaining something for a job, but wants to round out their skill set. We offer several courses in continuing education. So a couple of examples is the SHRM certification. That is geared towards individuals who are working in the field of human resources who want to obtain a certification to make them more marketable in their profession. And then we can work with individuals who are maybe thinking about retiring, which that may not be applicable right now to this discussion. But again, it's just a sampling of the scope of what we do at BCTC.
The certifications and licensings that you all offer, do they vary in time? And are most of these certifications available online, or do they have to be in-person type classes?
So the certifications, as far as time goes, most of them are, if a student is coming to us and wants to complete the full program, they average from 18 months to 2 years.
Okay.
So that would be for the Associate of Applied Science in those areas. So for example, in electrical, automotive, advanced manufacturing, industrial maintenance, those programs are typically 2 years in length. What's nice about those, though, is that in each of those programs, there are what we call embedded certificates that all stack on each other. So someone could come to us for a semester, for example, in welding, and get a certification so they can get out and get a job, and then come back and continue on if they want. Most of our technical programs have online lecture components, but for the most part are in person with flexible lab times, so students can work those lab times around their work schedule. So it does vary, but the most of all the transfer opportunities are available online, but just those technical areas, students need to demonstrate some competency in a lab setting.
But the labs, like you did mention, the labs are flexible, where if they are working, they can work around that to get their lab time in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's something that over the past 3 or 4 years that BCTC has really tried to expand, is that flexible scheduling. So again, meeting the needs of someone who's working full-time or part-time. Absolutely. This next program is our Workforce Scholars Program. And that is a United States Department of Labor grant that we were fortunate enough to receive, that can work with individuals who are aged 16 to 24 to earn short-term credentials. So that is something that can be completed what we consider to be in 2 semesters or less. And that program is really great because it provides additional wraparound services, student support services, and then works directly with students to help them with finding employment once they are finishing up their credential.
Let me ask you this question on that particular program. Now, seeing that they're entered at the age of 16, can students enter this program while still attending high school?
Yes, great question. So we have a multitude of what we call dual credit opportunities with all of our area high schools. So I don't think there's a high school in our service region where we don't have dual credit. So students can certainly work on getting classes towards these credentials while they're in high school, and potentially could even complete them before they finish high school, depending on the length of the program they select.
All right, it's my turn. Thank you, Erin. I love listening to you too, because I'm like, man, she's got a wealth of knowledge.
Thanks, Faith.
So, you know, for me, with my focus with career services is to really introduce, you know, the students and even the community, because I do a lot of things in the community. And again, I apologize. My voice is a little off. I'm kind of under the weather. So if you can't hear me, just say something, but I'm sounding horrible to myself. But so for me, when I consider having someone think about workforce success, I really feel like the part that I enjoy about BCTC is their intent on introducing anyone that comes into our realm about the career pathways. So the first thing, you know, we really promote, and this link that I have here is totally accessible, it's free to anyone, but it's specific to BCTC. So we do talk to anybody interested in thinking about a career to assess that. And this is a My Majors link that we have that gives them a quick assessment to answer some questions, and then it will follow up with giving them an overview about what career pathway, you know, would be the best for them. And so the second step for me that I talk to students about, or people in general just kind of dealing with either a career transition or again, just considering where they're going, is to research. You need to really research the career and know, you know, what's available and what's out there. And then the last thing is just to apply. The biggest thing that I see in a lot of the population is there's like a lot of fear to just, you know, apply and implement some of the things they're thinking. So again, with these steps, that's just the first three things that I consider are super important to make sure people are aware of. Let me make sure my links are going to work. I'm going to show you.
Before you do that, let me ask you this question.
Go ahead.
On these first three steps, is there a cost to the students to do any of these first three steps?
No.
Okay.
The Bluegrass My Majors, the only difference is there is a My Majors that people can access, and it's free, but it's general. Bluegrass My Majors is specific to BCTC and what we offer. So it's, you know, either option people can do. I tell students as well, like, just do both. If they're free, do them, you know, because I do find that people are kind of struggling with like where they want to go. And if they're having a career change, you know, thinking about what's all available. And as you heard Erin talk about, BCTC has so many programs. Sometimes it gets overwhelming. And I was like, man, she's doing good just talking about the variety we have. So yes, everything is free.
And
And
there's
this
no
is
cost to
accessible.
apply. There's
No.
no cost to apply. Okay.
No. So this is our career pathways link. Can everybody see that okay? And I just like showing people this because again, it goes deeper into what Dr. Tipton was talking about what we offer. And so it's just a wide variety of programs. And so I always recommend people look at the career pathways and being really intentional about knowing, you know, what's going to be expected. And then I also put a link in here because James, you all will have this PowerPoint to the actual application because I'm a big believer in, you know, putting some of the goals we set forth. So this is the link to all of our campus information as Dr. Tipton talked about. Here's all of our campus. We just went and did a staff tour to the North American Racing Academy. We do have a good equine program as well. So, you know, we're in horse country. So I always like learning more about that. So again, these links are readily available to access that. And additionally, I share with people career exploration resources. These are all also free. ONET is an interest profile that people can go into and get real in-depth information about careers. The Occupational Outlook Handbook has been around for years. I was introduced to it in undergrad. But if you have a specific field that you're thinking about, it gives a lot of the information you would need as far as pay, as far as the outlook, as far as hiring and employability. I always share with people in most areas have a career one stop. We have one here in Lexington, the Kentucky Career Center. And then in general, making sure you're on the sites that are going to make you more marketable, which LinkedIn is one of the big ones that we definitely promote, and just putting yourself out there. I've received job opportunities via LinkedIn. I've even received them off of Facebook, but being really careful about the profiles and understanding that what you put out there, people are paying attention, and even, screening people before they're interviewed or during the interview process. So making sure your professional profiles and even the ones you have preferred personally are up to par. Go ahead, James.
Now, let's say someone applies and it gets accepted into one of the programs, now do they get a personal career counselor that assists those with the things you just spoke about?
Yes, we actually do have. So BCTC's career services in general is growing, and that's what's exciting. But we always have had advisors on campus. So there are career advisors, and we even have faculty that serve as advisors to assist students. So no student is ever just left like on your own choosing this. They do have intentional communication about, are they on the correct career path, making sure their classes and the things that they're signing up for are up to par. Dr. Tippin, do you want to add anything on that?
No, I think only thing I was gonna say is the advisors, and you covered that, so thank you.
We have a good variety of advisors. One of the things with my position is making sure one of the first things I did was staying connected with the career advisor and those team, because again, how can we have a career service and not be connected with the advisor? So that is definitely something that's available to students. Now, again, if you're a student, it's here, you got to access it. So making sure they're encouraged and engaged and actually empowering themselves to advocate for, those services. So I wanted to add in, just thinking in general about workforce success. For me, it's a variety of things and it's so much, but some of the things that I've kind of researched and looked into, and just from my experience, I think a lot of people need to understand that in this day and age, you really have to be intentional about where you see yourself going, how you plan to get there, and again, implementing those steps. So a few things that I think are super important for workforce success are work-life balance. Really gone are the days where people are working themselves to death. I'm not saying they don't do it, but I think the consideration about considering how your employer cares about work-life balance, you can see that in, work that offers gym memberships, or that do mental health services, having those employee EPA programs, employer assistance programs, EAP. I think that's super helpful, and being aware that if an employer doesn't offer those things that are important to you, you might have to consider, is this somewhere that I'm going to be long term? The next one is career growth is optional. You can stay in a position, work that position, retire in that position, but I feel like taking advantage of growth opportunities is super important, whether that's training that professional development can offer, taking advantage of just conferences and seminars, just to continue to grow in your career. Because I think when you grow, you'll be more fulfilled. Kind of along that line is taking advantage of all the opportunities. Sometimes we get in situations where there's plenty of things that are available to us, but are we taking advantage of them? Are we seeking options for funding for some of those trainings that I mentioned? But even personal, like doing things that are going to keep you growing and making sure that you're on the right track in all areas of your life. Mentorship is super important. I think encouraging people to always seek mentors in the areas that they're interested in. Sorry, I got a call. Is really important. So finding a mentor, seeking out mentors, and making that connection. Salary negotiation is something that I didn't really understand until I got a little bit older. But in this day and age, you do have the wherewithal to be knowledgeable about, salary ranges and what, you can afford. In this day and age, cost of living and understanding, is this going to be suitable with benefits and things like that? So making sure people empower themselves to research the market. And those links that I showed you before, the Occupational Outlook handbook, they can give you some guidelines about in your area, this is a realistic salary. Because that can even have people thinking about maybe not staying in Kentucky, maybe going out of state into different areas where the cost of living might be more in their range of what field they're in. The next one is, again, like taking advantage of opportunities, trying to enhance your skill set. A lot of the programs at BCTC are all about skills and obtaining skills. And that's something that I really find to be a struggle with some of our younger population, is them not understanding that a skill set is important. Understanding that, yes, you can work, but are you developing a skill? And so a lot of the programs that we're sharing are skill set and something that you can grow and ensure that the longevity in the workforce is going to be, obtainable. Finding the right fit is also important, which is why I added in those assessments. I think making sure that your skill set, your passion, the things that you care about should really be tied into the job and the market that you're wanting to pursue. Avoiding complacency. Sometimes we get stuck and don't want to grow. Like I said, that growth is optional, but being sure to know when you feel yourself getting complacent in a field and making sure you're taking advantage of what's next, continuous learning. I don't think anybody in the workforce that has been successful stops learning. I tell people when I got this position, Dr. Tipton handed me a journal to read. And I remember I tell people, so reading and learning is just never going to end, and it shouldn't be something that you're afraid of or apprehensive about. It's like we have to stay ahead of the curve and knowing the trends. And then lastly, I think is avoiding toxic workplaces at all costs if you can. And sometimes in some dynamics, it may be unavoidable, but I feel like making sure you have communication with your leadership, making sure that, your personal self is taken care of, even in the home life work balance is super important. But, if it's not a good fit, again, then considering your next steps. And I am running into a lot of adults that are seeking career changes because of toxic work environments. Any questions about those? Erin, anything you want to add? I feel like my voice is getting ready to go, so I'm trying to.
No, I didn't have a question about any of those, but I did have a question. I can save it to later on. I'm not sure where you are in your process, but
Okay, it's almost wrapping up. So one of the really exciting things Dr. Tipton shared with me and another colleague was this handout that talked about critical jobs in Kentucky. So I told her, I said, we would be remiss if we didn't include that in talking about workforce success. So the Kentucky Talent Pipeline, which is a part of the Kentucky Chamber Foundation, put out this information. They also have a really nice website with a lot of resources. I almost got overwhelmed, but if somebody is really interested in the workforce trends, I would suggest you looking into the Talent Pipeline and the Chamber Foundation. So these are the 9 major areas of where jobs are in high demand. And so the next few slides are just taking each of those 9 and showing you the top jobs and the top areas that, people need to consider and that are in really, really high demand. And the critical word, I feel like, is significant, because it's saying these jobs are really in need of, people and people that want to work in these areas. So nothing to me was surprising about healthcare, because that's the one field that I feel like we're never going to not have a high demand, but they are wanting the skill sets readily available, and we'll see that in the slides. So here are just a few. Again, they're separated by the top 9. So some of these we do offer at BCTC, which when I saw it, I was flipping through like, we do all of these. So the equine study programs, we do a CDL. There's a lot of that that is in high demand. So I'm not going to belabor the slide and read all of these, but just want to leave them up for a second. But again, these are a lot of the high skill set and high demands. And again, we partner with BCTC with this presentation to say we do offer a lot of these programs. So I was excited about that.
Well, and this brings up that other questions. Let's say if someone is interested in a CDL and or some other license or certifications that you all offer through these programs. Now, do they have to wait to the beginning of the semester and apply, or are these offered at various times throughout the semester?
I can take that one, Faith, and give Faith's voice a break. Like the CDL driver position so it's for someone to be certified as a commercial driver's license or have licensure in Kentucky. We offer that program almost every 4 weeks, so it doesn't
Okay.
follow the traditional academic calendar. And then some of the others are offered like every 8 weeks. So like in nursing, if someone wants to get their foot in the door with becoming a nursing assistant, which is a requirement anyway to get into our RN program, we offer those classes virtually every 8 weeks. And so that's what's nice. And the same with welding. If someone wants to do something maybe entry level in welding, we usually have some 8-week sessions that we can offer to individuals.
And the best place for them to find the start of those classes would be at your all's website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And let me just add too that, so we have the Work Ready Scholarship in Kentucky. And so that is something that is available to any Kentucky resident who is a graduate of a school in Kentucky, a high school, or who has their GED. And they can access that. And the list that Faith has provided, virtually all of these, if not all of them, are on that Work Ready Scholarship list. So what that means is that's free tuition, that they're covered under that Work Ready Scholarship. So we have people at the college who are ready, willing, and able to help individuals complete the FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid application that, it's a little tricky. So we have people here who can help. But also that Work Ready Scholarship is available as a backup if people are not eligible for that. So it's a great opportunity. And what we see is that if individuals qualify for the Pell or pick a program that's on the Work Ready Scholarship list, we do not encourage anyone to borrow money. So these are programs where people are coming out debt free, have no student loan debt. And so again, just want to reinforce that as Mr. McFarland has indicated, that all of this information is available on our website, but we do have people that can help navigate and answer specific questions.
Thank you. And the Work Ready site is really informative and nice, and it can be found on our main website. All right, so the next jobs, critical again, these are the jobs from the top 9 fields that, again, we also have offered at BCTC. I just go back. And again, she mentioned nursing. Nursing is in high demand. So we're the CNAs, the LPNs, and of course the RNs. And I always recommend, especially students, if you're interested in CNA and that's a skill set that you've been able to maintain, I always recommend going into the RN, because the RN demand is extremely high, and definitely, the salary is what people, really have strong goals to obtain. So I'm always a big advocate of not stopping at just the basic CNA. We also talk to people here. We have a program that does lead into social work, which I'm biased because that's what I am. I think we need definitely more social workers, and especially in this day and age with a lot of mental health crisis, having appropriately trained people that are working in those populations. Oops, I think I'm going too fast. Sorry. Let me go back. Here's the other ones. So more in the IT area. Aircraft maintenance was interesting to me because when I looked up, I was messing around with some students about some fields. Even an airplane pilot is in high demand, and the salary is like in the 6-figure range. So knowing that, some of these careers aren't very well known, but knowing that they're in high demand is something that I think, especially with the younger generation, we want them to expand their horizons and not just think, in the box, and get out of the box with some options, especially if this is something that, would be fitting to their career path. These are more of the manufacturing. There's logistics, as I think those were the last 2. And that wraps up our presentation. So again, when Aaron and I were approached, putting our heads together, we can't talk about, the workforce without tying in BCTC, because for me, what I understand is that education and building those skill sets is super important to workforce success. And I would say not just for the younger students that are in the high school range, but even those that are considering a change. And we are running into a lot of people that are looking at career changes. And so I just promote BCTC as far as the shorter term programs that, they don't have to feel intimidated that they have to go and do a whole 4-year switch, go into the major. You can go into these certificate programs and get into a field that might be more fulfilling than what you previously experienced. James, did you have any other questions?
Oh, no, that was an excellent presentation, very informative. And I guess, like you said, if the people visit your all's website, they can get more information on the apprenticeships, the scholarships, the different times that the programs start. No, that was very interesting.
And if I could just add, just as our, Faith and I both touched on this, but I just want to reiterate that, we are seeing a shift in, in general among employers. Now, I can't speak for every employer, but for the most part, employers who and understand that they need to invest in their employees to keep them long-term, right? And to develop them and to provide career pathways. And so what Faith touched upon with our short-term credentials is spot on. We offer programs that are, 1 semester, which is 16 weeks, or maybe a 2-semester program. And those are programs where, you don't have to invest a lot of time, and you can obtain a good paying job, right, with some of these high demand technical fields. So, we understand that time is of value to people, and people don't necessarily have years to spend, in a higher education institution. So, we want to encourage and promote and just remind people that there are good paying jobs out there that can get you started in a particular career field or an industry sector that require some shorter term credentials. So again, I'm seeing a shift, and we're also seeing a shift in individuals who are who are getting these short term credentials and then going to work for their employer, and reminding people and the employers those education benefits. Many employers have education benefits that will help pay to continue your education. So kind of maximizing the different funding sources that an individual can access to help further their education. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, it's a true return on the investment. And I think, like, for employers and for people, sometimes we have to invest in ourselves to get that positive return. And so that's just, I see that being a kind of routine thing, discussing with employers and individuals in general.
Yeah, I saw one of these certifications or programs that you had up there was the line tech position. And a couple of weeks ago, we had LG&E and KU presenting, and they talked about the line tech program that you all offered, and how it was very instrumental in completing that program if you wanted to be a part of their team. So
that was a good tie-in for us, huh?
Now, again, I'd like to thank you all, ladies, for being a part of the Urban League of Lexington's Workforce Wednesday. And again, I enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to talking to you all at a later date.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, James.
All right, and enjoy the rest of you all's day.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.